Hello everyone, back for the next iteration of the TYPO3 Online Days in 2021. We're still remote, we're still sending live from Düsseldorf, Germany. We'll be having really interesting talks today, starting up with Eki, who will tell us about marketing automation. Then we have Paul Hansen from the US, who will be talking about website accessibility, why it's important, what you should do, and why you should do it. Then we have Oliver Klee, who will explain how to get test coverage and automated tests going on your TYPO3 extension. And finally, we're really proud and happy to show the BabesGotBytes initiative from South Africa. So that's going to be the schedule for the entire day. And starting up, the first session will be Ekkehard Gümbel from Leuchtfeuer in Hanover, Germany. And if you've worked with marketing automation, there's a lot of big players in the field. So say HubSpot, Marketo, Oracle got their solution. But what is if there was an open source solution that basically handles everything really well, just as good as the other guys, much like TYPO3 handles content management like the big guys very well. And Eki will be talking about how to use that, how to bring it together with TYPO3, and basically how to build a business upon those things. I'm really keen and looking forward to the session that's coming up next. We're going to have a quick segue to our sponsors. As usual, you know, without sponsors, something like this wouldn't be possible. So big shout out to all of them. Thank you. And Eki, kick it away.
Hello everybody, welcome and thanks Mathias for the introduction and welcome to the first talk today. And this one is about Mautic, not about TYPO3 but about something in the neighborhood of TYPO3 and how it all integrates with TYPO3, what the hell it is, marketing automation, and why it is important. So this is the name, how Mautic helps you winning TYPO3 projects. It's basically the conjunction, and I have a ton of content for this talk, and so let's get started right away. First of all, this is obviously from agency perspective. Winning project, we're an agency. It may be relevant for many users as well, but it is from an agency perspective. I'll give you some basics about marketing automation and about marketing in general. the relevance once again for TYPO3 and how it all ties into each other. And last but not least, how to get started as whatever you are. At the end, like always, we'll have a couple of minutes left for your questions. So please send them in via your channel of choice when they pop up, and we'll answer them at the end. Once again, there's a ton of content, so I'll rush from the beginning. Please apologize for the speed and use the chance to look it up on YouTube after the fact. Real briefly, who am I? My name is Eki, as introduced. I've been with TYPO3 since the really early days, and I'm with Leuchtfeuer Digital Marketing, formerly known as Bitmotion. So many of us may have met us at some sort of TYPO3 event. We're 30 people based in Hanover, northern Germany. We've been founding member, gold member of the association from day one, and we've always been proud to do 100% TYPO3 with our team. Except that changed a couple of years ago when this funny term marketing automation popped up more and more frequently. Nobody really knew what it was about, but eventually there was a large pitch where it was a requirement, so we were forced to dig into it. And fast forward, we are now using Mautic as the other product technology in our portfolio. We are heavily contributing to the Mautic project. I'm myself the team lead for the community team, and we're doing a Mautic podcast on a regular basis, and so on and so forth. So that's about that. Let's do a sort of non-Paul. I'd like to ask a question. What is your agency? What type of agency are you with? This is obviously not really interactive, so it's not a poll, but please ask yourself, what am I? This is really just a bit of exercise in the beginning to say, okay, there are web agencies out there who build fantastic websites. There are fantastic websites built on TYPO3s, so those specialized things, we call them TYPO3 agencies. There are marketing agencies on the other end, those who help customers run campaigns, achieve their goals, earn money, etc. And there are other flavors like online marketing agencies, some really specialized. So here's an SEO shop or something, some with a broader approach. And then there are technology-focused agencies, so not really full service, but rather technical agencies. And we ourselves had been such a really technically focused agency in the beginning. And when we say online marketing and marketing tools, that can be defined as including CMS as well. So CMS websites as part of the online marketing is an important notion. And of course, you can be any combination of the above. So what are you? Can you answer that? You should. And I guess most of you can, but it's a moving target. And here are some inspirations for thoughts. Basically, let's take some different angles on this question. Positioning. One broad differentiator is, can I do it all? Or am I specialized in something? So is it a universal approach or a specialized one? That applies not only to agencies, but also to products, of course, product suites versus specialty products. Now, obviously, the large ones are the universal ones. And if you are not one of those, you will question that approach. Is it a credible one? Is it really giving you the best choice for the various areas? On the other hand, if I want to go that way, what size do I have to be as an agency? What does this size do to my team, to the quality of my service, etc.? What are the implications? Long story short, in many cases, there's not even a choice. You have to position yourself as a specialty shop, or more or less specialized one, maybe niche with a boutique shop, or just a certain area of marketing and online marketing. Nonetheless, there are many people out there who pitch the exact opposite, who say, hey, you need the integrated solutions, you need things that tie into each other, you don't want a growing zoo of tools and service providers, you want the one product suite for it all, and you want the one agency or maybe two for them all. And of course, those large vendors push that with really shiny and well-polished arguments and slides and all. On top of that comes our beloved pandemic situation where digitalization is a big deal. It gets a lot of attention on management level, and those folks are even more susceptible to the salespeople from the large suites. Okay, there we go. Bottom line, CMS is no longer a rocket science thing. It is a commodity. That's not news. The trend is really against the niche product. We need broader offerings because clients are trained, are educated to expect those. So what does it mean from yet another angle? And that angle is now revenue streams. For us, large TYPO3 projects are a major part of our revenue. And of course, the ongoing things that come in the years after, like ongoing support, enhancements, etc., maybe even hosting services, are also contributing to the revenue. Then there may be other products like maybe Matomo or marketing automation or translation automation or whatever. Additional products that tie into that thing, additional smaller projects that come with that product. And maybe additional services as well, like consulting, online marketing services, etc. And on the other hand, what does not come in for us is the really large marketing budgets. We are not the ones who create the campaigns for larger corporations. We are just merely implementing or helping implementing or doing parts of that. So the large budgets are not part of our revenue stream, the marketing budgets. And for some agencies, there's even retailing involved for licenses, for services, or for SaaS products, whatever. Bottom line, for us, the TYPO3 part is by far the most important one. 90% is not an unrealistic number, but the other things are needed to enable us to get those TYPO3 projects still. So that's where we're coming from. Now, what are those complementary services? It might look like this. Here's a random selection. You've seen similar slides in the past. I think in the last T3Con keynote there was a similar thing. And since that time, Volker Graubaum came on board, and I'm very happy to see that he's pushing hard to develop partnerships with all of those additional products and providers, etc., to make TYPO3 a more complete product and then to give agencies the possibility to sell or to pitch suites of products that work well with each other. And of course, what we're looking at today is marketing automation as one of those complementary pieces of the puzzle. Now, the question is, what is the point of marketing automation? If you haven't heard of it, that's one thing to start with. We all can do fantastic websites, right? Good user experience, maybe accessibility, great features, great optics and all. But none of that is an actual goal for our clients. Clients want different things in the end. Everything else is just something on the way. The real goals may sound like this. They want to sell something. They want to feed leads to the sales team and eventually sell things once again. They want to increase retention and customer lifetime value, so get more of the existing business. If it's not about selling, then it's about other things like maybe donations, getting members, students, partners, maybe even employees, and all sort of things. So those are goals. And then there may be other things like functional services to existing users, or of course support marketing goals outside of the digital world, like drive people to a brick and mortar shop and buy some soda, or elections coming up, of course you want to support that online. Good, that is online marketing. Those are goals of online marketing, and that's what marketing automation is there to support. Before we go there, let's take a look at a very fundamental concept, and that's inbound marketing. What is inbound marketing? The idea is really simple. Instead of taking the phone off the hook and then trying to find clients or customers, let the customers find us, make sure it's the right ones, and make sure to get the most out of those that find us. That's the basic idea, and it's really simple steps. This is what we call the funnel. There are different funnels depending on where we are in, what market, what product, what value, etc. But in general, it's multiple touch points. Like there may be like TV ads, and maybe online ads, SEO, whatever. We drive traffic to the website, but the website is still at the heart of everything. If it's not an Amazon product. Now people come to the website. Next step is do something with them. Ideally, let them purchase immediately. If it's a suitable product, they can purchase on impulse and be done right away, and we're happy. If it's not such a thing, if there's longer buying cycles, then the other goal would be to turn the anonymous visitor into a known contact and work with that contact afterwards. So what does that mean? Basically, we need to be able to stay in touch with the person, and for that we need something like an email address or phone number, and for that we need the person to do the first step and fill in some sort of form. Now that we have a known contact, which we may call a lead, we can develop this lead towards conversion of sorts, whatever it is. Maybe it's an online conversion, or it is what we call marketing qualified lead. So we're now ready to hand it over to sales, let them maybe qualify it themselves, and then take the phone off the hook and call the client or whatever it is. So if the client is at a stage where it makes sense, we can then hand over to the sales team. Sounds a bit, well, sophisticated, if nothing else, but that doesn't mean it applies only to large stores or whatever. It applies everywhere, basically. B2B, B2C, even B2E, and small stores to people all the way up to really large corporations. Let's make it more tangible by walking through that sort of journey. Once again, people come to the website. It's a bit out of scope here, so whatever the way is, but eventually they come to the website. Now, in this really simple example, we give them relevant content and a call to action. That is obviously important. That is the point where we turn the anonymous visitor into a known contact. So in this case, we're offering a coupon code. Customer likes it, enters the form, gives the email address, submits the form. Next up, we, or the machine probably, will take the contact, look at what we know about the contact, and put them into a segment. Segments are very central in marketing because we don't act on an individual basis, but on segments, on drawers, basically. So now we have the person in the right segment. We can start the appropriate workflow. In this case, maybe we send them an email with a coupon code. Email goes to the client, and he or she opens the email and goes to the website. If not, if there's no reaction, we may even send a follow-up email. When eventually the person gets to the website, they can activate the coupon there. Maybe they get lost somewhere, get a reminder on the website, hey, there's still the coupon waiting for you. And if all goes well, they go to the purchase and become a existing client. That's where we want to go. Now follow up, there's transactional things like purchase information, confirmation, status updates, things like that. And of course, marketing oriented or sales oriented follow-ups, upselling, or maybe a year later there's a reminder to extend the subscription or whatever it is. So that is a simple example, of course, simplified example as well. Now let's make it even more tangible. The specific task here is to sell a SaaS solution, a software as a service solution. That could be, let's say, some office suite by whatever vendor. Let's apply that, what we just learned, to this task. Bring traffic to the landing page, yeah, we know that. The call to action here would be offer a trial. And here's based on behavior. We can already at this point learn something about the client, maybe what landing page did he or she come in through, or what pages did they navigate through before they came to the form, etc. And we can now offer the exact right trial for the person. If they sign up for the trial, get started, we can now assist them, observe whether they are active or not, whether they run into trouble or not, and send the right follow-ups and suggestions, etc. Eventually, they are hopefully happy. We don't even wait if they are VIP, which we learn from segments, for instance. We may even, during the trial, send the right contacts to the sales team and ask them to make sure that they're not getting off the hook. Now, the end goal is, of course, to survive the trial and to make sure they stay on board and become happy customers and spread the word and then purchase the upgrade and all that. So all these are things in the process of inbound marketing and the citing actions. Keep in mind, this does not only apply to a SaaS solution, but very similarly to other subscriptions like academy courses, maybe media streaming services. Netflix does exactly the same, for instance. And maybe you can even translate it into other things like test driving an actual car. Go ahead and try with Tesla. Maybe you will probably be nurtured in the same way. I never did. Real quick, here's another example. We want to sell espresso machines. What we do is bring traffic to the website, have a call to action. In this case, here's just a document or a video that gives some valuable information. And then we go from there, nurture the lead, and turn the lead into sales. Once again, this can be transferred to other products of all sorts as well, of course. Moving on, what we just discussed was basically inbound marketing. Now, what the hell is marketing automation doing there? First of all, inbound marketing can be done without marketing automation. In fact, like I think, 12 years ago, so I took a little time out from TYPO3 and worked with a US company who did networking devices, and we supported the sales team, and they actually did inbound marketing manually. Wow. So the trials were signed up, people received manual emails, follow-ups. Of course, the sales team didn't like that, failed to do it. It wasn't very individual, but it can be done. Machines, nonetheless, can do things much better, way more efficient, cheaper, and much more successful. So the concept here is not to replace the humans, but to let humans do what they do best, like human and individual interaction, whereas number crunching things and boring routine things should be left to machines. That's the whole point. And moreover, we did talk about inbound marketing, but of course marketing automation can be used for a lot of other things like outbound tasks, but also working with existing business or even in order to reactivate past business. And even in other contexts, we've seen projects where people use Mautic or marketing automation for things like partner management, measure whether the partner is doing the right things, whether the KPIs look good, and if not, why not, and then send the appropriate suggestions, etc. automatically, and only eventually escalate. Other things, community management, support processes, other sorts of automation. Let's look at another example real quickly. The task here would be to bring known contacts to our trade show booth. So we have a B2B situation maybe. We have a large customer base in our CRM, and we want to invite people to the trade show and make sure they show up. Obviously, we need to start from the CRM in this case, not drive traffic to the website, but send invites, maybe send vouchers or point people to a voucher website, send reminders, send content, push for appointments, etc. So do everything we can think of to engage people and to motivate them to come to the trade show. Then when the trade show is there, we get the visitor list automatically, and we can do the follow-ups depending on maybe segments of those that did show up, but also to the no-shows. So that's truly valuable as well. Last example here, what we want to do is sell or make people aware of an additional service. So in this case, a client is building machines, selling worldwide, and is now starting to market an additional software product as a service, and wants to engage existing business and to make them aware of it and push them towards trying it out. Same story here, retrieve the contact list from CRM, send them information, look at the behavior of the people, and give the hot leads to the sales team. And that can be done, once again, even if no form has been submitted, because we know the person that we sent the email to. So that's a lot of abstract stuff maybe. You get the point, but you probably have no clue what it all means and where it gets tangible. So no, it's not voodoo, it's real simple. It's basically a technical tool set to do all that. So marketing automation is basically a set of tools that ties into things. And by the way, that's not standalone. It can be, but it's rarely standalone. It normally ties into all sort of other systems. There it is, our tool set. Let's look at some things here. First, we want to start with contact management. That's a real differentiator from TYPO3, that that the contact, the visitor, is at the center of everything here. We want to make sure that that individual reaches the goal in the customer journey. So that is really, really central. In order to learn about that person and to take intelligent actions or decisions, we need information about the behavior. So that can be website tracking and other touch points as well. Now, tracking is not a beloved thing, but it is necessary. And the great thing is that we are in #1 position with our open source tool to be compliant to all the rules that differ across the world, and still get the best results out of it. We can own the data. We are first party. We can change things as we need it. We do not rely on any US-based company or what have you. So that's good. And then at the heart of the action is the workflow, the automated campaigns, and we'll look at that in a minute. There's just one more thing I want to point you to, and that is integration. As I said earlier, tying into other applications is very crucial, and so there's a ton of integrations into CRM systems, CMS systems, e-commerce systems, webinar systems, etc., but also generic integrators like Zapier, Integromat, or N8N. And then there's the magic of webhooks, which we also love. And that's, I'm referring to Mautic here, of course. Yeah, so that's marketing automation. What about marketing automation with TYPO3? How can that be achieved? I suspect many of you have had the situation that a client comes in and says, hey, we decided to go for HubSpot, and please put this tracking pixel into TYPO3. And then you turn around and say, oh yeah, you have Google Tag Manager, put it in there, and you're good. So what does it need to integrate such an external system? Basically HTML, JavaScript. We talk about the exact things beyond tracking in a minute. Then there would be an option to do a custom extension. You don't want to do that. There's one existing extension for marketing automation with TYPO3, and that's called Lux by our friends at Into Code. By all means, do take a look at Lux. It's a really good thing. Then there may be some lightweight features coming up as part of my of TYPO3, eventually as a core feature or as a add-on feature. So there might be that. The way that we went was the way for Mautic. That is a full-blown marketing automation system. It is an external system, but it is an open source system. It can be self-hosted. It is open, and it is deeply, deeply integrated with TYPO3, which we'll also look at in a second. So what is Mautic? This is Mautic. You can see a little bit. This is, of course, just the dashboard. When you look at the widgets here, you can have all sorts of statistics. Where do people come from? How do they convert, etc. That's really what people want to learn. On the other hand, the menu basically reflects what we looked at earlier. If you remember the tool set, all of those things can be found in the menu. The one thing I want to show you in detail here is campaign workflows. Everything else we need to skip because we're really short on time. But workflows is, once again, the heart of the thing, and basically it's a drag and drop workflow builder where you can act with decisions, conditions, and of course actions. And you can imagine that it can be really complex. The challenge here is to build workflows that are maintainable over time, but the options are really, really powerful. You can, an action could be change the properties of a contact, or send a WhatsApp, or show a banner on the website, or whatever. And then decisions, conditions, etc. Like if the email has not been opened for 5 days, or if the zip code starts with a 2, or things like that. So I guess you got to believe me, this thing is important and powerful. Now, deep integration with TYPO3, what does that mean? First, what are the basic needs? Once again, tracking we did talk about. The other one is forms. That is the number one goal of a marketing automation system, is to learn about a contact by presenting a form and motivating the person to fill it in. So that's the two most important ones. With Mautic, we have other things that are very typical, like set a tag with the contact if something happens, or present some dynamic or personalized web content on the web page. That would be typical other things. All of this can be achieved through HTML and JavaScript. Depending on what it is about, it's in the template or in an HTML content element. And that's of course the same whether it's HubSpot or Marketo or it's a Mautic. Now with TYPO3 we can do much better, and these are things that nobody else in the world can do. We have basically a two-layered extension set here. One is the marketing automation core extension that provides us things like targeting, and then there's a Mautic adapter that gives everything that is specific to Mautic and also provides the Mautic API connection. The credentials are entered there. The other thing you do there is activate the Mautic tracking, by the way. Now, forms. Let's look at forms. We do not just drop a JavaScript snippet at the appropriate thing, but we tie deeply into the form framework of TYPO3. We come with with a form prototype called Mautic, and when you're using that with a form framework, you now can attach a form field to the appropriate property on the Mautic side, so we can make sure that the form value or the value that is entered here goes directly to the Mautic field on the other hand. By the way, when we create the form here in TYPO3, it is automatically created and updated on the Mautic side as well. That's real magic. And then of course what it takes is a finisher. So when I hit the submit button, the form content is submitted to Mautic, and we have a beautiful contact on the Mautic side. Next up, again, sorry for the pace, but we need to do that. We're already running out of time. Next up, we can do tags in Mautic. We can do targeting. We invented something called persona in TYPO3, which is sourced from segments in Mautic. That could be geo targeting like we show here, but it could also be targeting based on demographics, on company size or revenue, or on the device that has been used, or behavior, like this person has been there 3 times already, let's target him differently. And that is being used. Now that we know what persona we're talking to, it is used similar to the concept of front-end users. So any web page, content element, template, dataset can be restricted to a certain set of persona. And that is so powerful because it is using all the TYPO3 beauty like caching, etc. So bottom line, this is again something that nobody else can do in the world, and we love it. And we by the way, we love the people who helped us and still help us doing that. By the way, TYPO3 is also the way best integration with Mautic. The others could do the same, but they don't. Real quick, Mautic is the only relevant open source alternative. It is based on Symfony and MySQL, just like TYPO3. It is still very young. It has been initiated by DB Hurley in the US, who was a former Joomla guy, and is rapidly growing around the world. We are seeing strong communities from Japan to Brazil, and of course in Europe and in North America too. It's still immature, you have to say. The product is robust, but it is frequently changing. We don't even have an LTS concept. The processes in the community the community itself, everything still is a work in progress, of course. Politics, important point. Again, DB Hurley founded this thing. He also founded Mautic Inc., who is holding the rights. He sold Mautic Inc. to Acquia, which you may know from Drupal. So they are the open source minded company behind Drupal, and with Dries Boetjaert at the helm. They are using Mautic as part of their marketing suite called Campaign Studio. They heavily support Mautic still, of course, and they also own the right, and they reserve the right to have some decision making on highly strategic decisions. So far, we are super happy with the collaboration. No complaints, no dictatorship or anything, just pure support. So props for that. Nonetheless, of course, we want to grow more independent over time, maybe have an association or whatever. And by the way, if you wonder, no, the product, the Mautic product has nothing to do with the Drupal product, and it will never do. So Mautic projects, remember this multi-layer. It goes from strategy and campaign content and ideas and creative all the way to implementing that in the tool and providing the tool as well. What could that be? Tech implementation could be templates, like this is another thought of banner or focus item as we call it. Or it could be an integration with, in this case, the Deutsche Post postcard delivery or letter delivery, which we created for Mautic. So all that is, of course, the tech layer. And hosting as well, you have the option to do your own hosting or let somebody do it for you, or there's a chance for SaaS, which is way easier with marketing automation because it's not as highly customized as most CMS projects are. Yeah, you can read about this later. One thing I want to mention is that yes, you want a staging environment, you want to do the testing. We have frequent functional updates. They're not always bug-free, so yeah, beware. Good, getting started. Here are some starting points. Forum.mautic.org and Slack. So those are the two social places. Mautic.org itself, of course, and you can also find information about Mautic conferences and meetups, etc. there. The YouTube channel has a lot of content, for instance, from the past conferences, and there is a really famous podcast out there in German and in English called the Mauticast, which we are proud to provide. Other than that, if you have any questions, do get in touch with me. I'm really happy to help everybody out and give the assistance needed. So there we go. We only have a handful of minutes of time left. So here's question number 1 from Versna Interactive. Can you share some of your experience insights? What tools or which measures are working good in context with winning new TYPO3 clients? Or do you have any do's and don'ts? Okay, so this is about using Mautic for marketing of the agency. Okay, how do we win clients? I guess the best thing, at least on the Mautic side, is webinars. That is very strong call to action. If you spread the word well, then you can always get a good base and work with them interactively. You can tightly integrate with webinars. I think that's the best call to action. Of course, oops, that doesn't make sense. Of course, there can be others, but those ebooks or whatever you have don't work really well. The point is always, what is the call to action? What is the motivation for the prospect to do the first step and get in touch with you? So yeah, webinars would be my best option. Okay, so I'm looking at more questions, and I know we're out of time. Can anybody give me a signal whether we have time for more? Okay, what versions of TYPO3 are supported? We currently support version 8 through 10, but we're promising to support version 11 as soon as it's out. We're of course on the path to be an officially sanctioned integration. So with this partnership thing with Volker, we're eager to do a really good job to support new versions, but also older ones. Whew. Okay, so we are more than out of time. I thank you very much for listening, and if you have questions, once again, here are my contacts. Do get in touch on Slack, LinkedIn, Twitter, or just via the website, and I am very happy to hear from people out there. For now, thank you very much for listening. Have fun with the rest of the talks in the day, and yeah, stay tuned. Maybe we see you on the TYPO3 snowboard tour, which hopefully will happen this winter in Largs. Yay. Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
That was a lot of information. I do know it's a hefty topic. It's an amazing thing. We do marketing automation ourselves for a long time. It's really, really cool stuff that you can do with that, and it helps out the customers. So I know Eki went a bit over his time limit, but I personally think it was totally worth it. So thank you for that. I'm pretty sure Eki will stick around in YouTube chat, or you can hit him up on Slack or send him an email or ask on Twitter if you have more questions for that. Unfortunately, the time was a bit limited. Speaking of other important stuff, we do have Paul Hansen from the US who's going to be talking about accessibility. And as he already said in the session, there's a lot of things that you see when you walk around town. So say a flight of stairs, for example, and then there's the ramp next to that. So people in a wheelchair, for example, can still access the facilities. And a website is pretty much like that as well. And Paul is going to give some really, really valuable insights on what you have to look out for, how you can test it, how you can make sure that your website is accessible to a broader audience and basically, ideally, everyone in the whole world. So Paul will be taking away his session. He did pre-record the session, so Paul will be in the YouTube chat down here, so you can ask your questions right away, although I still advise to pay close attention of what he has to say, because it's really, really interesting stuff. So Paul will be taking away with his session right after our small segue to our sponsors. See ya.
Hey everybody, my name is Paul Hansen. Thanks for tuning in to my talk about web accessibility. I'm going to try not to get bogged down into technical details. There are plenty of those, and as you know, you can find lots of technical stuff online. Instead, I'm going to talk about why accessibility is important and try to change your perceptions about disability. We'll look at common issues in context and cover some practical things you can do to improve any website for everybody. First up, I've put together a list of related resources on a web page rather than embedded here in this video. This page is at notes.typo3.org/accessibility. This is intended to help make this presentation more accessible by providing alternative content for those that can't see the slides, since I won't be reading everything that's on them. So I've been at this a while and worn a bunch of different hats, but mostly agency work. That's me sailing on Lake Champlain. And during the winter, I ski our local Vermont mountains as often as I can. So my first TYPO3 website is still running TYPO3 after 17 years, and they're still a customer, and made a good choice in 2004. My agency, Ecopixel, serves nonprofits and municipalities. They need effective websites and accessibility, as well as the kind of long-term stable platform that TYPO3 provides. Last year, I got much more involved in the TYPO3 community. Besides being accessibility team co-lead and helping kickstart this new UX initiative, I'm engaged in several outreach initiatives, including Kokomon and the Community Expansion Committee. I'm especially excited to grow TYPO3 in the Americas, so if you're watching, listening, or reading this presentation from that region, please get in touch. I want to start my talk with where we want to end up. User-focused universal design. Well, that sounds hard, but it's better than the alternative. Sites should work for their diverse users regardless of impairment or ability. No one's looking for a special site, a special page, or special feature. They just want to go to your website and have it work for them, and work with the various technology they're using. It's a lot easier to develop one solid universal website than different websites for different types of visitors. You wouldn't make a fixed-width, non-responsive website today, would you? If nothing else, think about accessibility like the revolution of responsive design. Let's get started by answering some questions. Accessibility is all about making your website usable by as many people as possible. When walking around a city, we're used to helpful things like ramps and audible crosswalk signals. These were developed to help people living with disability, but we all make use of them. Pushing a baby carriage, riding a bike, using a wheelchair, or just walking across the street without tripping on the curb. Many website visitors use settings and software to help use the web. A screen reader reads aloud the text on the page. A keyboard can be assistive technology. How about viewport zooming? Responsive design techniques started life as an accessibility approach. Today, your emails practically write themselves with autocomplete. Voice control was developed for accessibility. Now we have smart devices and talk to our TVs. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, is the international standard for accessibility. There may be more stringent or additional requirements for your work where you are. WCAG is versioned, and the current version is 2.1. Fortunately, 2.1 builds on and is backward compatible with 2.0 rather than replacing it. 2.2 is expected sometime soonish. It's been, the public comment period just ended. And 2.2 is expected to add more success criteria, so more things to do that improve accessibility across your website platform. This additive approach is good because you don't have to start over again just because they came out with a new standard. So because it's the level typically required in the United States, such as for municipal websites, I'm pretty focused on AA level conformance. Everything I talk about today will be related to that level. Perceivable, operable, understandable, robust. If you just heard these, you'd think, hey, those are pretty good principles of UX. And you'd be right. These are the core principles of WCAG, and all of the success criteria are based on them. Disabilities are grouped into 4 categories that WCAG aims to address. Visual disabilities, including blindness, low vision, and color blindness. Auditory, which includes deafness and hard of hearing. Motor disabilities might mean someone is unable to use a mouse or other typical input. Cognitive includes learning disabilities, memory, and ability to focus. But content required for users with certain disabilities can help others. For example, transcripts on videos are required for hard of hearing visitors, but they're helpful for anyone in a noisy environment or listening to a speaker with a strong accent. Accessibility helps everyone, even those who don't directly need it. Situational and temporary disabilities mean more of your website visitors have some change in ability than you might think. It's not just people that you would traditionally think of as disabled. Maybe you forgot your reading glasses, or you're riding a bus and have to mute the sound, so you need captions. People need to adapt to your website in ways you don't even know about. With the spectrum of human ability, you couldn't create alternatives for everyone. Wouldn't you like 10% more sales or donations? How about 25%? Estimates vary, but a lot of people are disabled if you include temporary and situational disabilities along with permanent ones. You've probably noticed that I put "it's required" last in my list. Sure, it's motivation, but there's so many better reasons. So now that you've adjusted your perspective on accessibility and disability, let's look at how we can improve our websites. Remember that every improvement you make as you strive towards accessibility goals will be appreciated by a wide variety of visitors. If you're already an expert, you're probably going to think I'm glossing over some details, but we want to make some meaningful improvements right now, not spend all day learning every specification. Now, I've said this is the easy stuff, but really it's the easier stuff. My hope is that you'll learn to quickly spot common problems, and then maybe you won't make some of these errors yourself. This isn't intended to be a complete list or even a top 3. I'm just going to try to get you going in the right direction. So, what kinds of issues are we talking about? Color contrast helps a huge number of visitors to your website. The WCAG requirement is aimed at helping low vision visitors, but really it helps ensure that the text is readable by everyone. Lack of adequate color contrast is a very common issue on websites. Sometimes it's driven by designer tastes, often it's caused by CSS framework defaults, and also it's often driven by branding requirements, such as when print colors are used directly online. If your content is purely visual or auditory, you need to provide markup, transcripts, or other alternatives so that the content is available to everyone. This alt text is among the most well-known of the WCAG requirements. It's often overdone, though. Every image does not require alternative text. Don't repeat the caption if there is one. Don't say "photo of," or "picture of," or "image of." Certainly don't use the file name. Instead, do be contextual to how the image is used. Do be concise. A picture does not tell 1,000 words. And don't be afraid of trying. These can be tricky to write in some cases. Just think about how it's being used, think if it really needs to be there, and do your best. So let's look at a website and use a few tools that will highlight these issues. We'll use Wave, an automated accessibility tool. Now, automated tools don't catch everything, but they can quickly spot problems and are a good part of your workflow. We'll also check out Color Contrast Analyzer, which is used to sample colors and compare them to the WCAG contrast requirements. I should note that we also like testing with a screen reader like NVDA, but I don't have time today to go into a demo of that. So now we're looking at my local statewide radio station with a listening area of about 2 million people. And I don't mean to pick on them, it's just a site that I look at frequently, and it's got some great accessibility examples. A lot of sites have similar issues. To check out these issues quickly, I'm going to use an automated checker called Wave, which is a browser extension. It's going to run, and it's going to give me a report and overlay a whole bunch of icons. I'm not going to give you a full tour, but the main things that we're going to focus on right now are the contrast errors, some ARIA things, and also the alternative text attributes that are set for images. So getting to the first one here, we've got quite a few contrast errors. If I go to the contrast tab, I can start navigating these. So if I go over here and I pick this first one, this is the donate button, and our contrast of the text and the background color are quite a bit lower than the 4.5 to 1 that WCAG level AA requires. And you can see in this report it's got AA fail and that's a problem. And this is probably normal size text. If we look down the page further, we'll see some of these other ones. Here's one. This is a blue box with a blue button and white text. It's a lot closer to the 4.5 to 1 that we need, but not quite. And you can actually use this tool to adjust the lightness and get a new color. So if I just made this box a little darker, this blue, yeah, right there, it's almost the same. But now we've got enough contrast that we can satisfy the WCAG success criteria for color contrast. Look for a few more. Now here's one. So now we're seeing that this white text on the light green is also not high enough in contrast. And this is a problem. I'm just going to reload the page so that Wave goes away. We can see that our brand color here, this light green, is everywhere. It's in the header, so it's behind this text. It's in the buttons, so these buttons don't have sufficient contrast. And this is a common thing. You say, well, this is our brand color. It's a nice bright green. We're going to use it. And yet, if they'd done this check of contrast, they'd know at the design phase, hey, we gotta make that green a little bit darker. And darker green is fine. Doesn't really change the quantity of the color, the quality. So that's what they should do the next time they redesign this website. Getting to some similar issues, we've been just looking at text contrast on the background. WCAG also says that the contrast between important non-text elements and their background also needs to be at least 3 to 1 contrast. So I've scrolled partway down the page and I'm looking at this link here. This is orange on green. Now the Wave report was looking at text contrast, so it didn't pick this up. But we've got a tool, this color contrast analyzer, that will let us sample the colors off the page. And there are a variety of different tools that do this, but this one's pretty good. So I'm going to pick my foreground color here. It's the orange. And we've got the background color. It's the green. And we can see that the contrast is very low, 1.4 to 1. Would be especially difficult for someone that has color blindness, because it could be gray on gray or tan on gray. It would just be really hard to see. And that's what these WCAG contrast standards are for, is to get the contrast to where it works for more of your website visitors. I don't have a lot of time here to talk about all of the interesting alternative texts on this page. I just wanted to focus on the orange graphic that says Vermont News Roundup. Clearly for this website, the content editors are instructed to put in alternative text for all the images because that is what is accessible. Well, context matters. In this case, Vermont News Roundup is the headline right below this graphic, so we don't even need alternative text here. And we certainly don't need it to be as descriptive as an orange background with Vermont News Roundup written with a small green graphic of Vermont on the R of Roundup. That's quite a mouthful and not helpful to someone that actually needs this alternative text to be there. So our next topic is aimed at ensuring that the site can be operated. That's pretty hard if you can't get to all the pages. Many visitors use a keyboard to navigate. Perhaps their hands aren't steady enough to use a mouse, or maybe their trackpad broke. Anyway, they're not using a mouse, they're using their keyboard. Now, don't assume that everyone just using a keyboard is a blind visitor using a screen reader. Many people navigate with the keyboard who can see the screen just fine. It's easy to test this. Just load up the page and start pressing the Tab key. You may also need to use the arrow key to navigate through drop-downs. Here we are at a municipal website dealing with the recycling, composting, hazardous waste, and trash for about 60,000 people. There are two issues that we want to look at on this website. One is, without a mouse, the menus aren't usable. I can use them with a mouse. They're drop-downs. They look JavaScript based. But with a keyboard only and no mouse, I can't get into any of them. The other issue is, while I have hover effects on buttons like these, or down here, it's pretty hard to see where I am in the website with a focused indicator without a mouse. So now I'm going to let go of the mouse. I'm going to start tabbing through the website just as a quick test. And you're not seeing anything because the focus indicator has been removed. The outline style has been set to 0. Now I'm in the main navigation. I got nothing. Nothing. Not until I get down to this How to Pre-sort Recyclables button, but that focus style is not strong enough to meet our WCAG standards. So I've made a version of this web page with the styles fixed. If I go down here in the inspector and I search for outline and I check focus, I've disabled these styles that turn off the outlines. These are the browser outlines. I'm in Chrome, so they're pretty chunky, pretty easy to see. In some circumstances, they're not ideal, but it's a good start. So now I'm going to start tabbing through the website. Hey, I can see where I am. It's better. I can even sort of use the main navigation now that I can see where I am. However, the drop-downs don't work with the keyboard, so I can't get into any of these sections. I can just go to the main page for them. These featured areas are now more accessible as well because, again, I can see what buttons I'm accessing. So it's a start in the right direction. Here we are at another county-wide municipal website serving a population of about 170,000 people. This site is much more usable than the last one, and it's clear they thought more about accessibility, which is good because both of these websites are required to meet WCAG level AA, but there's still some issues without a mouse. So I'm just going to start tabbing here. I get a skip to content link. That's nice. And there are focus styles. So outline has not been set to 0 for all of these links, so I can see where I am. And these are the default Chrome outline styles. They're fairly visible. They're not always good enough, but it's a good starting point. Now I am in the email address subscription field. The subscribe button has some problems. There is a focus style, but because this website uses Bootstrap, the default focus style for buttons is pretty wimpy. It's subdued and matches the color of the buttons, but because it's a blue button on a blue background, it's especially hard to see. It's definitely not meeting the level AA success criteria. Now we're in the main navigation here, and I've got panels, and here we run into our first really major problem with the keyboard navigation. I've opened this panel, but I didn't really mean to. I'm trying to get to how we can help, but this panel opened up as I went tabbing across here, and now when I hit tab again, I'm in this search box, and in fact I'm tabbing here through all of these links, and it's only when I get to the end that I can finally get to the next tab. But now I'm stuck here as well, and I can go back. Now I'm holding down Shift and Tab, so I'm going back, and that works. But this is a bit of a keyboard trap. I'm not totally stuck here, but it's not user-friendly because I have to figure it out. The only way to get across this navigation quickly is I have to just tab, tab, tab before the panel opens up. And this is a JavaScript thing. It's because these panels weren't made with the same user experience for mouse and keyboard as they should be. If your navigation is complicated, like drop-downs, accordions, panels, etc., use a framework and use their battle-tested JavaScript and CSS for this stuff. But don't assume that your framework is accessible out of the box. You'll at least need to adjust the colors. Next up is support for text resizing. This may be a surprise for some of you, but it's easy to fix and can make a big difference for users that enlarge text in their browser. Don't assume that your visitors are all using the default viewport zooming to increase text sizes. Many visitors who want bigger fonts for every website they visit have something specific set in their browser. If you're using a framework, this can be quite easy to change. The example on this screen here is for Bootstrap 4. In fact, Bootstrap still uses pixel-based breakpoints out of the box, and their argument is that devices use real pixels, but it assumes that viewport zooming is the only way people enlarge text. Fortunately, it's easy to accommodate both ways of resizing. Alright, we're back on the municipal website. This website uses pixels for breakpoints, and we're going to look at how robust that is compared with breakpoints that are set using ems. This seems like a small detail, but as you'll see, it makes a big difference when people are using your website in a variety of different ways. Now, I'm in Firefox with all its defaults for sizing, so I'm going to get this viewport resizing, which scales everything. It's what modern browsers do by default. So I'm zooming in, still zooming, and this is what we would expect would happen. It just kicks into responsive, and now I'm kind of in a mobile size. So right about here, this is 200%. This is kind of the WCAG standard for font enlargement, and the website looks fine. But not everybody does this. Quite a lot of folks that just want to make the fonts bigger so they can read it have been in the settings, and they use a feature like this, zoom text only, or they've set some specific font in their browser, and that's what the browser is going to use. They said, hey, I don't want these little fonts, I want big stuff. So now we're going to look at this website with text only zooming, and there's this real disconnect between the breakpoints that are pixel sized and the fonts. So now when I zoom in, the layout doesn't change at all, just the fonts get bigger. And this is a big problem. It's a problem for WCAG. One of the things that happens is now that the fonts are bigger but the containers haven't changed, we've got text that overlaps with areas where there's definitely not enough contrast, and we've got text that overlaps other text. So it's impossible to understand what the text says because we can't read it. Now, clearly this website isn't so robust, which is one of our priorities for WCAG. It's got some problems when it comes to this sizing, and Bootstrap defaults to this pixel brace breakpoints, but there's no reason to do that. And if you just make this simple change to M's for breakpoints, your site will be a lot more robust. Now let's go over and look at a website that uses M's for breakpoints. I've still got the browser setting here for zoom text only, but in this website, when I zoom in, it works responsively. Just everything gets bigger, it goes into tablet, goes into mobile view, and it's just seamless up to really, any font size. And it's the same with or without this kind of a setting. And the only change between these two is just a few lines in the variables file where I set the breakpoints to M's instead of pixels. It's easy. Last but not least, we need to remember that web accessibility isn't just good web design and good template development. It also has a lot to do with content editing. Your template might be perfectly accessible, but that accessibility will slowly degrade over time as content is added to the website. Even if you could periodically audit the website, that means any issues will be there for visitors from the time that content is entered until the audit and eventual fixes. It's a lot better if you can do stuff along the way. Now, TYPO3 structured content and its rich text editor help a lot with accessibility, but training is still really important for content editors. There is some help on the way, though. There's a really cool TYPO3 extension that was just added to the TYPO3 extension repository called A11Y Check. It's developed by Paul Hansen. There's a screenshot of it here. It's pretty cool, so I hope you'll check it out. So I've tried to make things seem easy enough that you'll start doing things and start making improvements, but the details of accessibility do get complicated. And I don't want the experts to think that I'm trivializing it. Just always keep in mind that every improvement, if done in a quality way, will make a difference and will be appreciated. You don't have to do it all to make a difference. TYPO3's accessibility team was launched in September 2020 after its startup phase as an initiative. The team elevates accessibility within TYPO3 as an official priority. These are our current team members, though several other people are engaged in this work, and everyone is welcome to join in and learn. We serve as an ongoing advocate for improving and maintaining accessibility. We're a point of contact for accessibility issues in TYPO3. However, our job is not to fix all the back-end accessibility issues, although we do work on them. Our biggest focus is on working to improve awareness and understanding for all developers so the whole project is more accessible in every commit and in our daily content edits. Our first sprint as a team was in October 2020, and our next sprint will be held rather soon, I think in a couple months. It was great to have so many participants, including so many first-time contributors to TYPO3. The TYPO3 Accessibility Hour is an open forum to discuss TYPO3 related accessibility work and accessibility in general. So bring your challenges, bring your questions. It's also okay just to listen in. We've had a wide variety of folks attend over the last several months, and that's been great. Please join us next time. How do you get started? Well, start. It's important to make changes early in your web development or content process. It's a lot more trouble to find and fix problems later on, and meanwhile, some of these easier improvements could have been there all along, helping your website's visitors. Go for it. All right, so let's make TYPO3 the CMS for everyone. It's important, we can do it, let's do it. Remember to strive toward accessibility because every improvement will make a real difference that will be appreciated. I want to thank everyone who contributed ideas for this presentation. The best ways to reach me are through TYPO3 Slack and the ecopixel.com website. So let's connect. I hope to see you at the next TYPO3 Accessibility Hour. Take care.
So we're still on a tight schedule. Thanks a lot, Paul, for coming up with the session. It's really, really great that you could make that work. Paul's going to be in the YouTube chat anyways, so you can continue the discussion. Our next speaker will be Oliver Klee, but since we did the live stream a couple of times, we had a few people ask us how things look behind the scenes, so everything basically behind that camera. And we did like a short 1-minute thing just to give you an idea what's actually going on. So we're going to roll that right now. I'll be back in a minute. So that was the short sneak peek of what you can expect. The team is currently shooting like a full-blown, also technical explanation, but we wanted to get the whole event thing sorted out first, and then come up with a proper solution for that. And as usual in live shows, and you can see this is all live, we're currently having issues getting Oliver Klee online. But I'm pretty sure the team behind the scenes will figure that out as we speak right now. So I don't really have a queue timer here. So what we're going to do next is basically I'll just announce the session, and fingers crossed that Oliver Klee will come up soon. That would be good. Ollie is going to talk about automated testing, which basically means how you can provide a higher quality of your extension development by finding bugs early, having automated tests think about stuff that you maybe forgot because you wrote the code a year or 2 or 20 years ago, those kind of things. Unfortunately, since we don't know exactly when Ollie will be back online, you will be getting the short intermission screen, and you have to stay glued to the screen until we can get him back online. Other than that, I'm pretty sure Paul is still in the chat, and accessibility is a topic to talk about. So we're going to segue to our sponsors, and then hope to see you soon. Yay! So this is going to be the shortest moderation of a talk ever, since we need to squeeze the time in. Next up, Oliver Klee, automated testing. Pay close attention. It's going to save you a ton of time, ton of hassle, ton of money. Take it away.
You wouldn't have guessed it, but we had a problem with caching. And we tried clearing the cache, but it didn't work. And so we had to restart basically the whole internet. But in the end, it worked. And so here we are. And this is not what I look like right now, but because I'm a bit stressed out and not as relaxed as this person here. So this is me. My name is Oliver Klee, and I'm an extension developer. I work as a workshop teacher for workshops like this one, or for unit testing, for extension development. And at TYPO3 events, people sometimes greet me with, "Hey, you're the unit testing guy, aren't you?" Because I give unit testing workshops at pretty much every instance of the developer days. And at Twitter, I'm Oli Klee and Oliver Klee in the internets. This talk is a result of our work at the so-called TYPO3 Quality Assurance Initiative. And in this initiative, we have the mission of researching how to build a good best practice TYPO3 extension, and we're also building an example extension, implementing the principles and findings which we've encountered during our research. The team consists of Daniel, of Lukas, and of myself. And you can join us at Slack at the channel QA Best Practices anytime. We have a conference call every 2 weeks, and just hang out at the chat and see whether you'd like to work with us. Today's talk will be a guided tour through automating. Sorry, there's some noise in the background. An automated tour through. Okay. I need to stop this. Just wait. I'm so sorry. Okay, now I can continue. Okay, so today will be a guided tour through automating the quality of your extension, so the quality checks and also the automated improvement of quality. But you might ask, why? Why would I want to do this? Why do all this work? The idea is that the automation of code quality is like a colleague that sits at your side, looks over your shoulder and says, "Hey, there is something which you can improve in your code quality, and there is a possible bug." So it's doing what a code reviewer does, but it does it for free. And this allows you to spend more time in doing things which can only a human do, and leave the rest to the computer. And this is what we'll do. We first have a short look at the tools we are using and our approach to supporting PHP and TYPO3 versions in extensions. Then we have a short overview on the demo extension, which is called the T extension. You could also use coffee instead if you like. And then we are going to break things and hopefully repair them again. And in the end, we have a short look at doing automated testing like unit testing and functional testing. So then, let's have a look at our approach on tools and version support. We think that your extension should support all supported TYPO3 versions, in this case 9 LTS and 10 LTS, soon being 10 LTS and 11 LTS. And with this, we think that you also should support the PHP versions supported by those TYPO3 versions, so that if anyone has a current TYPO3 version, they know that they can use your extension in their installation. Then there is the question of branching strategies related to TYPO3 version support. There are basically two strategies. One strategy is the one branch strategy. You have one Git branch there, and the same branch supports two LTS TYPO3 versions. And you might need to have some TYPO3 specific code branches there, so it's a bit more complexity there. And you'll also need to use the Nemut testing framework by Nicole Cordes and Helmut Hummel for writing unit tests and functional tests. The reason is that this is currently the only testing framework that supports the use of multiple LTL versions in the same version. In this case, the Nemut testing framework version 5 supports TYPO3 8 through 10. The other approach, the other strategy, would be the two-branch strategy. In this case, you'd have one maintained branch for your TYPO3 9 LTS compatible version of your extension, and another branch for the TYPO3 10 compatible version. And in those cases, you'd use the TYPO3 testing framework, which is the recommended testing framework to use unless you cannot use it, like in the one branch strategy. The reason is that why you cannot use the TYPO3 testing framework in the one branch strategy is that the TYPO3 testing framework currently does not support two TYPO3 LTS versions in the same major version. So you need to use the TYPO3 testing framework version 4 for TYPO3 9 and version 5 for TYPO3 10. And this is why we currently recommend using the one branch strategy. Although there's a silver lining on the horizon, the upcoming version of the TYPO3 testing framework will support two versions of TYPO3 LTS at the same time. So version 6 of the TYPO3 testing framework will support versions 11 through 12. So in the future, you'd probably want to use the TYPO3 testing framework and not the Nemut testing framework. The reason why the Nemut testing framework was started in the first place as a branch of the TYPO3 testing framework was indeed this. It was to support multiple TYPO3 versions in one version, so you wouldn't need to have different testing framework dependencies on the same branch of your extension. Then our recommendation concerning installing the development tools like PHP-Unit and the testing framework and PHP-Stan and PHP Code Sniffer. Our recommendation is to use Composer wherever possible. This restriction relates to that there might be some cases where you cannot not use Composer for a dependency. One case of those would be that the tool you'd like to use requires a higher version of PHP than your extension supports. For example, our extension currently supports PHP 7.2 through 7.4, but the copy and paste detector requires PHP at least in version 7.3. So in this case, we cannot install it via Composer. Also, you couldn't use Composer for installing dependencies if you run into dependency hell. Dependency hell is defined as that there are conflicting dependencies of tools or between a tool and between your code base or between TYPO3. And in those cases, you'd switch for the individual tools which are a problem, you'd switch to 5, which packages the tool and creates a self-contained file from it, and then you would use the file instead of the Composer dependency. Then let's have a look at the demo extension, the T extension. The T extension is hosted on GitHub under the TYPO3 documentation namespace, and the project is called T. Very obvious. And it's a very small extension that allows you to create a number of T flavors, display them as a list view on the front end with the UID and the title, and has a single view that displays the title and a description and a backlink to the list view. So that's the T extension. The structure of the T extension is what you would expect from any well-maintained Xbase extension. So you have a controller, you have a model, you have a repository. The view helpers folder is empty, and then you have some HTML templates, some language files. This is what the T extension basically looks like. And now let's break it. Okay. I have created a break everything branch of the T extension, pushed it to GitHub, and we are currently running all kinds of checks when something is pushed or when a pull request is created. And as you can see, some checks were not successful. Some is an understatement. In this case, 29 tests were failing and some 10 were green. So let's look at what is broken. Almost everything. Then let's get into the code. I'm in the T extension now, and let's see which tools we have at hand. I run Composer, and now Composer shows a list of commands I can use, including the commands we've added to have a convenient way to check your style, your code style, and to check your code for possible bugs. Those checks are located under the CI namespace. We have a task for generating the Sphinx doc and a task for fixing things wherever possible. Usually the basic starting point is the CI static. I'll run this, and this one will run all checks that are possible to do without actually executing the code, so only by looking at the code. We'll run that and see the first problem. Okay, the subcommand CI composer normalize complaint. Let's run it on its own. Okay, the same error. Just a moment. Okay, it complains about the composer entries not being well sorted. The tool we are using in this step is the composer normalizer tool, which defines a convention on how to sort things in the composer JSON, and it expects us to resort things. So we resort things by doing composer normalize, and this will take the current composer JSON and reorder things. Okay, it worked. Let's see what has changed. Okay, so things have just been resorted. Then let's run the check again. Okay, everything is good. Let's commit this. We can merge squash commits later anyway, so we'll do small merges here to be able to undo things in case something goes wrong. Sort composer JSON. Okay, then let's run the static checker again to see what else might be broken here. Okay, now the JSON linter complains. Let's run it on its own. And it lets us know that in the package JSON there seems to be a trailing comma. Okay, I've not been a very good coder here. I've been introducing all kinds of errors here. I feel terrible. Okay, then let's open the file. It was this file in line. Which line is it? Line 25. Let's go to. Okay. There indeed is a trailing comma. I think it was some copy and paste problem or something. Let's remove it and rerun the checker. Okay, this is good. Then let's commit it. Fix trailing comma in JSON file. Oh, and there was a typo in the commit message. So sorry. Okay, then let's run the static checks again and see what else we can discover, what kinds of problems or potential bugs we can see. Okay, and this now the CI PHP CS fixer step has complained. This runs the PHP CS fixer, the code style fixer, and sees what the fixer would fix for us. Like this. Okay, and as the name fixer suggests, it also can fix things. So let's see which command we could use for that. Composer. And we'll use the low-level fixer command here. Let's run this one. Okay, it has changed to files. Okay, what has it changed? It has moved the curly braces to the beginning of the next line, which is PSF12 compatible now, and also it has removed an import, which probably was not used. So let's run the check again. And now it doesn't complain anymore, except that the configuration is outdated and it asks us to update to the version 3 of the fixer, which we can do, but not now. One thing at a time. Let's commit this. Fix PHP CS fixer warnings, and then the usual game again. Let's run the CI static check to check if there are any other things to discover. Okay, who is complaining there? Oh, okay. It's PHP Stan. That is a tool that checks for type compatibility, it checks for incorrect method calls, and it checks for accesses to inexistent properties or methods. And let's run it on its own. And it's complaining about the, let's open that. Let's open the file for the T model. And it's complaining about line 67. Access to an undefined property T internal node. Line 67. Internal node. And the, this is strange. Ah, okay. So it looks like the property actually is called internal nodes. So I'm missing an S here. And the getter already refers to the internal nodes with an S. The getter and setter are named internal nodes, so let's check whether the property is here. Yeah, it's called internal nodes with an S, so we'll add the missing S here. And check whether PHP Stan is happy now. I like making tools happy. This makes me happy. Okay. This looks good. Fix typo and property access. All right. Then let's see what else there is to complain about. Green, red. So many things to fix. Who has done this? Okay, now the tool complaining is the TypoScript lint called with the script CITS, like TypoScript lint. Let's run on its own CITS lint. And this is the file. Let's open it. Okay, and it complains about the indentation. the indentation looks right here, I think. So what is it complaining about? Let's look at the error message closely. Expected indent of 4 spaces in line 3. And those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. So, I see the problem. Okay, so the indentation level is 2 spaces here, but in those lines we've indented the next level by additional 4 spaces. So it should be like this. I'll try to do an auto format. Oh, yeah. By the way, this worked because we have an editor config file which defines the indentation levels for different kinds of files. So for TYPO files, it defines the indentation size is 2 spaces. And PHPStorm can read this editor config file and adjust the auto-formatting config accordingly. And this is very handy. So let's see whether the TYPOScript lint is happy now. Oh, it's green. Let's commit this before I break anything else. Fix TYPOScript indentation levels. Okay, then let's check again. Honestly, I don't know whether there are more warnings or whether this is it, because I have put so many warnings in here. I have lost the list. Oh, more errors. This is so bad. Okay, now it's the YAML lint. Then let's run it again. And it's complaining about the GitHub workflows publish. Okay, let's open the file. This is the auto-release script for releasing to the TER, to the TYPO3 extension repository. Okay, so okay. I think someone has put in a hyphen here, and the uses should be directly below the name, like this, without any hyphen. This looks better. Let's see whether the YAML lint agrees. Okay, this is green. Let's commit it. Broken YAML syntax. Okay. Then drum roll. Oh, how is the situation? Everything is green. I cannot believe it. Okay, this is very nice. Then let's look at the schedule. So now we have broken a few things and fixed a few things, and then let's continue with using unit testing and functional testing to improve the code quality or the general quality of our extension, and to maybe find a few bugs. Okay, then let's get into the code again. I close the files. Okay, so for those of you who have not done any unit or functional testing yet, I'll give a short overview. The convention is that you have a tests folder and 3 subfolders there: functional for functional tests, unit tests for unit tests, acceptance if you have any browser-based testing, which are called acceptance tests. And in those unit and functional folders, you have the same folders you have in your classes folder, assuming that you're testing the corresponding class here. We don't have any view helper tests because there are no view helpers. It's just a placeholder here in case we wanted to have some view helpers here. Okay, let's start down below. Domain model T. This is our T model. Yeah, we've already seen it. Let's look at the unit test for that. So we have a t-test in the same directory structure as for the classes, and the t-test tests who would have expected it, the t-class. T-class, t-test. Okay. The general structure of a test case is that we have the correspondingly named test class, which for unit tests extends the unit test case, which is the general base class provided by the Nemo testing framework. We have a so-called subject. This usually is an instance of the tested class, and a setup method which builds things we'll need to use, we'll use in all tests. So in this case, it just creates an instance of the T class and puts it in this subject. Then we have the so-called test methods. They annotate with the test annotation, and they test one tiny little piece of behavior, each on its own, baby steps here, like set title, sets title. So the name of the test method should be a description of the behavior we're testing. And what I have done in the meantime is creating the getter and setter for the internal nodes. This is the function or the property for which found the first bug a few minutes ago. So let's write tests for that. Put it here between description and image, because that's the same sorting we are using in the T class. So add test annotation, and let's see whether the internal nodes setter works. The description could be set internal nodes, sets internal nodes. So it's completely legal, at least in Germany, to have trivial method names here. That's perfectly fine. So an internal node could be very yummy. Buy lots of this. Then we are calling the setter. Let's remember this subject was the instance of the test class, so we can call the setter here set internal nodes. Node. Let's call it nodes to be consistent. And then we need to verify that the setting of the property has been successful. So let's check this using the getter, because we wouldn't want to dive into the internals of the class, but just use the public interface here. We're calling this the getter here, get internal nodes, and we are comparing this to nodes. And for comparing, we'll use a so-called assertion that is provided by PHP Unit, the testing framework that lies underneath the Nemo testing framework. So it same works that it checks whether the two strings or the two things passed into it are the same, like with the 3 equal signs in PHP, like this. And if they are the same, everything is okay. If they're not the same, it will throw an exception. Let's run this. Or it doesn't cost us any money. Let's run all tests in this test class here. We are running this. Oh, and everything is green. That makes me very happy. Then we should also test that the getter works in a sensible manner. I can type internal nodes. What does it do? We cannot test that it actually returns the internal nodes as long as we don't have any internal nodes to begin with. So we could test the default behavior if no internal nodes have been set. And let's look at the getter. It returns a string, so it would be reasonable to expect that it will return an empty string. So let's call the method get internal nodes. Get internal nodes initially returns empty string. Remember, test names can be trivial. It's perfectly okay. We use assert same again. We expect an empty string like this, And we call the getter again. This subject get internal nodes, and we run the test and everything will be green. Oh no! Not everything is green. And what a surprise, our new method is broken. Not the test method, but something else. Error type property internal nodes must not be exist for initialization. Huh? Okay, so we are returning this internal nodes. Oh, okay. So we need to give it a default value to ensure that get internal nodes always returns a string. Let's rerun the tests and see whether we have fixed everything. Oh, it's green. This is very good. So let's see what we've changed so we can commit. We fixed the default value and added tests. Fix default value of T internal nodes and add tests. Like this. Alright. And then for the remaining few minutes, we'll look at functional tests. So we have a functional repository test. The functional tests are very much similar to the unit tests, but we're using a different superclass here called functional test case. Who would have thought of that? We need to define extensions to load, in this case the T extension, and that's pretty much it. The basic difference between unit testing and functional testing is that unit tests test one class in isolation without the whole stack, whereas functional tests test a bunch of classes or tests how a class interacts with a database. And for a repository, we want to test whether records can be read from the database, whether they can be saved to the database, and that just doesn't make any sense to test it without the database. Let's see what we have here. We have... Oh, yeah. Let's work on this one. Find by UID for existing record returns model with data. So we're testing here that when we put a record into the database, which we do with the function import dataset, and then read it again from the database by using find by UID, we expect the data from the database in the fields in the properties of the model. So we want to work on the internal nodes. So using the model with the UID1 here, that's an XML file. So UID1, this one, internal nodes, very good, I like that. And so we are writing a record with the internal nodes, very good, into the database. We read the record from the database with find by UID, and then we can check that the this text can be returned if we call it get internal nodes. Let's run this. T repository test. I've created something here. No. It's all red. What? Okay, unknown column internal nodes with underscore field list. Okay, let's have a look at the SQL file. So we might have discovered a problem in the SQL file here. Oh, internal nodes with camel case instead of snake case. Oh no, sorry. very good is not a good column name. We need to use internal looks like this. Let's run composer install again to update the database schema. And we'll also need to remove the temporary data for the tests because the database will be used for some minutes before a new one will be created. So let's remove temporary tests. This is where the test dummy data will be stored. Okay, let's run the whole thing again. Okay. This looks better. At least it doesn't crash, but it doesn't work. Okay. Why? Okay, maybe this one? I don't know. Maybe? Oh, no. I see it. Okay, so this is not the problem, I think. So we are debugging here. It might be that it's private and the others are protected. And if I remember correctly from development experts, it needs to be protected. So the error message is not very helpful there, except for telling us that something is broken. So let's give it a shot. Rerun it again. Okay, and let's remove that and see what happens. Okay, this does not work yet. And that is the cliffhanger. If you like, you can continue here. I commit this because I'm running out of time here. Git commit half fix the TDB thingy. I'm pushing that on the talk online days branch. Okay, and if I remember correctly, now is the time for the QA. Q&A. I'll just ask Carsten, who is managing the whole thing here. Okay, we have one question, and maybe, yeah, then let's answer that, and maybe we can fix the problem here. I have an assumption what it could be. Okay, then let's do the question first. I'm not, I don't understand the... Okay, the question is there a rough estimate for the extra amount of time needed versus bugs hitting production? So, are you asking the extra amount time to write the tests, or to write the unit and function tests, or for the time needed for setting up the environment that checks the coding style and the type issues? Okay, so I just answer. Okay, writing the test. Okay, so that's very hard to say because you wouldn't get the same kind of quality if you were not writing the tests. Okay, setting up the environment is a one-time thing, and you can use templates like our T extension here. The tests could be about, so compared writing high-quality code with tests versus low-quality code with bugs, but with no tests, it usually is about 60% more time needed for writing the tests. more or less. But you'd get a lot higher quality, and you'll get faster over time. And you can also speed up things if you have good good code templates like this one. Let's assume I'd want to write a test for a new property recommendation, and I have a test string live template here, recommendation, assuming I could type properly. This would create the test for the getter and setter for a string property. So this is very fast. And if you're writing tests versus not writing tests but manually testing for the same kind of quality, writing tests actually is a lot faster, because with each change of your extension you would want to test everything manually for the same high quality again, and so that this quickly pays off to write tests. Another question: how to get all those composer commands? And those might be two questions. One question is how to get a list of those composer commands. You can do either composer to get the list or composer list, which we do the same. And for writing the composer commands, you can go in the composer JSON, and you can find those in the scripts section here. And if you want to copy those, please go to the T repository, and you are free to copy or steal everything from here. That's the whole purpose of this project, to copying things from here for your coding and testing and quality assuring pleasure. This was the last question, so let's see whether we can fix things. I kind of remember that we need a proper setup TCA for properties to work in Xbase to work correctly. So let's look in the TCA for T. Okay, just a second. So, okay. It should be internal notes with an underscore here, because I was using the incorrect. Well, I cannot type today. The incorrect database column name. Let's run the tests again. And maybe I will need to... Ah! Haha! I fixed it! So the change is this. And I'll use a suitable git commit message. Woohoo! Fixed it in the last minute. That's it. I'm pushing to the repository here, and thank you very much for being here at my talk. Thank you very much for bearing with all those bugs and problems in my code, and thank you for helping me find the bug in my code so the tests are green. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye.
So, we're coming to the last session of the day. Thank you again for the session, Ollie. As usual, we all know testing is important. I think it gets a little bit under the radar most of the times, which is a completely false assumption from my end, that I think more people should invest time in testing. We do so in the company to quite a degree, and it's helped us along the way all the time. Coming to the final session of today, that I've been doing TYPO3 for close to 20 years now. And for me, TYPO3 is mostly about, you know, that of course there's code and stuff like that, but there's also stories that I'm very fond of, that I hold very close to my heart. And when Olivier introduced me to the BabesGotBytes initiative over in Cape Town, this is basically what's this total different part of TYPO3, at least for me. Because on the one hand, there's the let's do web projects, everybody tries to get like the biggest leads and do the coolest project they can and provide the best code they can, and you know, we meet up and have a good time at events, hopefully once the whole COVID thing is over. Looking really forward to seeing everyone again. But then there's a totally different kind of story that's also involved in this whole TYPO3 thing. And to me, TYPO3 is not just about web projects and building the coolest app that you can put up on the web, but it's about empowering people and giving people a chance to achieve something that they couldn't do without using open source software, for example. And what the three ladies at BabesGotBytes do in Cape Town, to me, is very close to my heart, and I really, really, truly, I love the effort. I love being part of that journey, and we're going to, well, world premiere a short documentary film that a student from Cape Town, Tapua, did, and afterwards we're going to have a Q&A session. Really looking forward to this. And I hope that we can get more people on board to provide projects like this with help, with support, with insights, or just spreading the word, because it's very close to my heart and it's a really cool thing to do. So stay tuned for the world premiere, for what BabesGotBytes got to do, and we'll be there after the short segue from our sponsors.
Hello, my name is Lihle Menzileleli. I am Amanda Xaxa.
I'm Pinwen Nanahu.
The idea of BabesGotBytes came when we were mostly attending many tech events in 2018, and we will find out that it's only us as women. There will be always guys. So we decided that we should take it as our responsibility to recruit many women in tech, so we can be able to close the gender gap in the tech industry.
We get the girls to take interest in coding by hosting tech events where we invite speakers in various tech fields like data science or artificial intelligence. So they come in and they talk about their careers and what they do.
In BabesGotBytes, we always create some hackathons where they can build projects, like they can solve community problems. And also we do the no-code hour where we put the computers aside. We create games with Lego pieces and also fun games.
So our learners that we are teaching here, we help them apply at Project Codex, which is a one-year programming project here in Cape Town. So we help them apply there so they can advance in their careers.
It's been a struggle because they know nothing about computer. They're struggling to start coding, so they need a background of computer. They have never used computers in their lives.
Hello everyone, my name is Ayaka Pozo. I'm doing grade 9 at Rosendal High in Delft. I am 14 years old.
My name is Yonela Matlangalabe and I am in grade 10 and I am 16 years old.
I heard about BabesGotBytes through Amanda in 2018 and I was interested in having computer skills.
I've been with BabesGotBytes since 2018, but I only went to events, then I started coding in 2019.
My experience that I have so far is HTML and CSS. HTML that we use to build websites and CSS that we use to edit it and give it some color. In the future, with my coding skills, I like to be a software developer or work for companies, like protecting the systems and working with computers.
I want to be a software developer because I want to help people to know more about coding, and I want to be the inspiration.
The relationship with TYPO3 started in 2019 when I met Olivia at the CMS Africa Summit here in Cape Town. So we met there and we exchanged contact details, and then after the event I sent him an email and he replied back, and that's where the relationship started.
Olivia has been great to us, like is our mentor, because like when we are having questions or we don't understand things, like he's open and willing to help us, and he's been helping us a lot with the organization with so many things.
During the lockdown, he's been checking for us, so we keep on being active. Last year what we did was giving to people who are not working due to lockdown, giving food to people who are not working. So he's been helping us a lot. In the next 5 years, I see BabesGotBytes in the whole provinces of South Africa, being the girls' tech school that teaches all the languages of technology to the females and everyone that is from the marginalized communities.
I see the organization doing great in the next 5 years and inspiring the youth in the marginalized communities, and at the moment we are currently focusing on web development. So I see the organization expanding to other tech fields, which are data science, artificial intelligence. We are planning in starting our own curriculum soon.
My biggest inspiration is Matlapeng. She is a software developer, international speaker and entrepreneur. She's someone that I know, and she is now in Ireland working for Facebook. That's what inspires me, because a girl in a small town like me, she can go that far.
You know, people have this analogy that a computer programmer is that weird guy sitting in the corner wearing a black hoodie and hacking other people. And it's not that. Coding is actually funner than that. So I just want to say that you can do it. Coding is not just for specific people. You can also do it.
To girls out there, I'll just say you can do it. There is no limit for something that you want. If you want to do something, never hear that word that says technology is for men. Technology is not for men. It's meant for everyone who is willing to do it. Your willingness, your hungerness can make you do anything that you want to do in life.
Yes, hello everyone. Nice seeing you, everyone here on YouTube this afternoon together with TYPO3. I'm Olivier Dobberkau, and with me I have the three famous and fabulous persons from BabesGotBytes with me, and we've got some questions that we've prepared. I'm looking a little bit on my paper that I have here with all the questions. And we will be going like, I think we've got the presentation or the short introduction of who's who was in the very good movie. So actually the movie was really I had to almost dry some tears here. Sorry for that. So excellent. I hope you're hearing me in Cape Town.
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good. I would like to start with the first question to you, Lille. And the very first question is, so it's more about what's going currently on in your community. So how do you keep up with the current events in your community? So what is the way that you find out what's going on, and how does can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that?
It's your
Lille? I think you need to unmute yourself.
It's fine.
All right, okay. So should I repeat the question then? So the question was about basically you all come from one community that is nearby Cape Town. So I was thinking what would interest our YouTube persons here is how you are keeping your updates with your
and we also hand out flyers and hang them in the communities, in Kukuletu, Khayelitsha, and all the townships that we are focusing on. And we also have a WhatsApp group chat where all the students are there, and we use that WhatsApp group chat to communicate with the students, updating them about what's happening with the classes and the tech news, sharing interesting information about what's happening in the tech industry.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. So the next question that I have here on this paper, you just answer it, that you're actually communicating with your participants through WhatsApp and through Facebook and through putting posters on the schools where you're going. So basically, can you tell us a little bit about those events that you're planning? Are you currently planning any? Are there any events coming up, or what's the current situation with the COVID-19 going on in your place?
So currently,
Maybe
so
Lille.
we had to. Okay. So currently we are having our usual Saturday classes. So like every Saturdays, we have coding classes from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock. So, and we also have classes during the week as well. So we go to different communities in the townships, and then we host workshops about digital literacy and coding. So, and we are also planning an event, a career chat event, where we introduce people to the tech world and let them know about the interesting careers that they can follow in the tech industry.
Great. And what I have understood from the different conversations that we had is that it was difficult in between to find locations where you can actually teach or hold those classes. So and you've told me in that you basically go up to the headmasters of the school and you talk to them, and then you need to talk to the teachers so that they understand what you're doing, and then you can at least at the end go and talk to the pupils of the school. So my question is like, would you, and this question is going to Findy, right? Maybe Findy can answer that. So the one question is, would be a teacher program, like, teaching the teachers some kind of a thing that you're thinking about, or?
It will be viable because of the technology revolution that is rapidly taking place around the world, whereby everything is being digitalized, and teachers are lacking the digital skills. We on our research, we saw that many teachers, they do not have their computer skills, so they are left behind. So the program will be great for them.
All right.
Yes.
So one question to Amanda, and I really like every time I see how you're pronouncing your family name with this funny sound. I really love that. I think this is so much of an exceptional thing, that names and people having names and stuff like that. So that's really outstanding. I always get like goosebumps if I'm listening. So my question to you, Amanda, is that in the video you were saying that you're seeing in 5 years from now, you're seeing that the BabesGotBytes initiative will be there in more. It will be in more places than just only in the place where you are. So I'm wondering what kind of opportunities you see for that. So how you want to tackle that big vision that you said that. So Amanda.
Okay, thank you, Olivier, for the question. So, we would like to tackle that by going into other provinces of South Africa. For instance, we have started in Eastern Cape. We have communicated with people from East London and Willowvale. So those are where we come from. So those are our hometown. So our plan there is that we know that there is less people who knows how to use computers. Even though some of the schools have the computers, they are not being used. So our planning for that is to go there, expand, and teach those people. The most plan for us is to do the trainer first, so that we'll have the mentors there who can be able to train people there and be able to split ourselves. Yes.
All right. So okay, so I had some hiccups listening to you in the last sentence, but I've got it that you said you will need to go and walk the walk. I mean, you want to go there to the provinces and talk to the people and convince, and I think this is really a good a way to do it, and to find even more people that might support you. So one question that is going now to Lille again is, how can we, and if I say we, I mean the TYPO3 community, how can we support you in following that path, in following that vision that you have for the next 5 years? What can we do as a community for you?
So currently what we are really struggling with is actually getting the resources, because we don't have enough resources to actually expand to other areas, because we don't have enough laptops, we don't have enough funding to actually buy the equipment that we really need. But I think that's what TYPO3 is actually doing. So TYPO3 has been actually assisting us with getting these resources, because they have been like funding us and to buy laptops and other equipment that we really need. So we really appreciate the support that you guys have been giving us, and it has really like helped us a lot, because now we have like 3 to 5 laptops that we are using in our classes. And yeah, and I also think that one of the things that TYPO3 can actually help us with is with the business side of things, the business side of the organization, because I mean we are all software developers, so yeah, the business can be very challenging at times, but yeah, TYPO3 has been really helpful in our organization.
Yeah, that's with the greatest pleasure, I guess. Everyone who has been working with you, we can only just say that it's really like giving us a lot of inspiration. And as you might know, the TYPO3 claim, or what we are saying about TYPO3, is that it's inspiring people to share. And basically, I feel that this is a very joint vision that we're sharing with you, is that we want to share that knowledge, and that's what really stroked me when I met you, when you were telling me we're coming from those areas where we're going back and teaching, and we are so connected with our community. So I thought that is something that is actually needs to be, that story needs to be told to the TYPO3 community, because also the TYPO3 community is a community that cares a lot about the community, their community members, and within them, you know, within their relations that they have, and they're not just doing, you know, okay, well, I'm just doing this TYPO3 thing and that's it, but they're really curious and caring about the other members in the area there. So one question that I have here also, again to you, Lille, and maybe the others can also chime in. So the challenge of giving children access to computers. So that's, how can we, how can this be as easily be addressed? So I think the question is more like so I've seen in the, we've seen in the movie, there were 2 students that were presented by you. They were like they were 13, 15, 16 in that year. But we know that nowadays there's even younger people and younger kids that should know about what's going on and should know how to use a computer and how to use a mobile phone and stuff like that. So once again, how can we address this challenge as early as possible? So what is your take on that, Lila?
Olivia, I think it all begins with the parent taking responsibility for the child's education. Because if a parent can afford it, I think they can buy a home computer which the children can use to play around with. And this way the children will learn the basics of computers, how to turn the computer on and off, boost their typing skills, and also learn various other skills of computer. And the parents can also show the child a video talking about the history of computers and how the computers develop over the years. And I do understand that not everyone can afford to buy a computer, which is why I think that we can only build if we work together. So I think the people that actually do have the skills, they can start organizations such as what we are doing here at BabesGotBytes, starting an organization to help the people in the disadvantaged communities so that they can also learn and have these skills.
Very, very good. Let's work on that. I mean, I think we have here very cool questions. I'm glimpsing a little bit on my laptop here, and we have cool questions from the community members coming in. And there was one question that is they're like very interested into your day-to-day routines and how life is currently with you. So that's a question that you can answer if you like. I think so. The question was from Alexander, who is a big question guy. I think he's here for many times already in the online days, and he's really like a very active contributor to the questions here. So Alexander's asking, what is a typical day? What does a typical day look like for you, like in example today? So what did you do today before coming to the office where you're currently connected to us?
Okay, go.
Free question. So who can tell us a little bit? So I hope it's not.
Okay, I'll start. So for me, I woke up this morning. I woke up at I wake up at 5:30, and then I snooze the alarm until 6:30. And I also check my emails in the morning, and then just to prepare my day and what we have to do here at BabesGotBytes. So because I'm working, I'm currently working as a web developer at Vault Africa.
Okay.
So before I go to work, I do my BabesGotBytes duties, checking my emails and preparing the session for the Saturday, the coding classes on Saturdays. And then I go to work. So work starts at 9 o'clock, and then I go to work, and then after 5 o'clock, I knock out, and then I go to the gym, and then come back home. And then, yeah.
Great. I can imagine that, yeah. So.
Oh, okay. And I wake up 5:30 in the morning, and then fix my baby. I have a 1-year-old daughter, and then I take her to school, and then 7 o'clock, I start working. I'm busy on Google Foundation. We have a 6-month program at Google, and then I start working. I work from home, and then in between I do my BabesGotBytes work as well. Like today we were busy because tomorrow we're having a workshop, so we're also busy on our social media and doing all that. And then after this afternoon, then I came here at the office. That's how my day went.
So it's great to hear.
Yeah.
So, but you're waking up very early, so I that's a big admiration that I can send over to you.
Yeah, if I
Carsten,
didn't
don't laugh.
if I didn't wake up early, then I won't work. So I rather wake up at that time. Then I'll have a great day.
I think that's really like a very delicate question that the people were asking. So I think, but it says a lot about you and your dedication, that you're doing this not as a full-time employee of some high super duper organization that exists, that you're doing this in your free time besides all the duties that you have. And I think that's excellent, and we should keep continuing to support you. Also a more a personal question that goes out to Findy. So that's the one question about the personal goals after the pandemic. So I think that we are all kind of restricted by the pandemic. Travel is not that easy, or visiting friends or doing stuff with the family is kind of difficult for everyone. So what is your what are your goals that you want to achieve? I mean, we've heard we want to travel. Maybe we want to go to another province and we visit another school. So maybe can you give us a little bit more about that?
Okay. Well, COVID-19 didn't stop me from working on my goals. I just learned new techniques on how to implement them. But there is one thing that I would like, that I'm looking forward to after all this is gone. Well, it's more hugs. I mean, we can't hug goodbyes our loved ones and also our friends anymore. Like, it's crazy. And like, we have this fear of a COVID-19 that, yeah, you have to social distance and all that. So I really miss hugging my friends and my colleagues. So that would be something that I would do after this, more hugs.
Right, yes. I think the world needs at least more love and more hugs. So consider this a virtual hug that I'm sending over to you.
Oh my goodness, here. I'm tired of virtual hugs, but I'll take that one. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's see. I think, Carsten, how are we doing with the time? Maybe we have time for two last questions, or questions from the audience. So there's another question about. All right. So the question that is, people are like very into details, and another Alexander Nietzsche question coming to you. So, what is the language you teach to 14 and 16 years old person? So, what is the thing that you're teaching to them? I would not assume it's not C++ or those kind of things, but I think you can answer that. Amanda, can you answer that question?
Yes, so the languages that we teach to the young ones, we start them with the Scratch, which is the one like logically shows how to use if and else, but using the cartoons. So from there we take them to HTML, CSS. We take them from HTML and CSS. So as we know, or I might say some of people who can do programming knows that CSS is broad. So from CSS, we show them that there are different ways of connecting CSS to HTML. We show them the Flexbox Froggy, which shows the ways of inlining your content. So yeah, that's how we teach them. Then after that, we found out they are comfortable with that, we take them to JavaScript so they can see the interactive of whatever that they were creating. If they're creating a website, they see that, oh, okay, when I click this button can take me to that or navigate to that. So that's how we teach them.
Great, great. So very cool. I think that everyone knows Scratch as a language. You know, that stuff that also, I think that's also that one that works with Lego or you know, those dynamic stuff, that robots. I think I'm not an expert. My first programming language that I've learned was Turtle Basic. That's a long time ago, like, you know, when computers were still having the green screen, and the access to the computer room in the school was like kind of something that was very rare and only for 1 hour a week or stuff like that. So that's where I learned Turtle Basic. Later on, Pascal Basic. Yeah, don't. And then there was a long pause for me, for programming. So, but I really like that. So there's one question again about the laptops that you're needing. So I can tell you that so Alexander, again, one of the cool questions. I can tell you that we are or BabesGotBytes have been in contact with an organization that is organizing like laptops that are given away to that organization, and we are currently in the talks of getting a certain amount of laptops shipped to South Africa. It would have been easy if, let's say, there would be like kind of regular people going to South Africa and taking one laptop after the other. So we've decided to check commercial options by sending those laptops through a transport carrier or logistic partner. So we're researching that and making this happen. So I think that's something that we will tell you about later on, or throughout the year we will tell you once the laptops have arrived and something like that. On the other side, I can tell you from my personal area of my life, I've started a fundraiser for BabesGotBytes. I have a collection of, like, I don't know, 1 million TYPO3 t-shirts that I have collected all through the time, and I've also created special TYPO3 t-shirts. And I've already collected a certain amount of money by selling those TYPO3 t-shirts to people that want to wear my old TYPO3 t-shirt. No, they're not worn, so don't worry. So, if you want to support us, there's many ways. You can make a donation to the TYPO3 Association with a special BabesGotBytes paying reference. You can contact, in example, also Mathias through info@typo3.com and ask him to coordinate and talk to him. So you can talk to me. There's many ways on how you can help us, and I think the biggest way is what you can do is also a cool way is that follow BabesGotBytes in Facebook or on Twitter and retweet their tweets and give them feedback, positive feedback, and cheer them up as they're really doing tremendous work in hard times, and I think that's what I would like to end up our conversation. So if and some final words, as we have Farai, who's mentioning Tapiwa, who is also somebody that we've met while visiting Cape Town in 2019. Yes, 2019. We all have this negative connotation with 2019, but so we've met her, and she was like one of the very first students that we, as TYPO3 Association, gave a grant to study something that has nothing to do with TYPO3, so not coding. So she studied filming, and I think it's you see how proud we are that we were able to help Tapiwa finish her studies with I think it was excellence, or with a very good, very high note, a great. And she's the director here of the video, of the documentation movie about BabesGotBytes. And so thanks again, Tapiwa, for your work here, and please continue it, and let's keep up also the good conversation going. So is any closing greetings and sending big hugs, and so that would be cool. So
that's it.
It's very interesting with the delay that you just. I can't hear you. Are you still there, Cape Town?
Yeah. Yes, we're still here.
All right, then I wish you a great time. Yes, please.
Thank you. We're sending our virtual hugs there.
Yes, virtual hugs for everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, bye.
And that concludes the session. Personally, like listening to what the three of them do, for me, I start thinking about what's really important to me, and I love to be part of the journey and help wherever I can. And as Olivier said, if you want to help out, there's a lot of stuff we can do. It doesn't always have to be money. It's also just like giving shout outs or just encouraging to keep moving. Personally, it's an emotional thing for me. It's really close to my heart, and I love what the three of them are doing. And that basically concludes the sessions for today. Thank you very much for watching. Big shout out to our sponsors who made all of this possible, even doing like live connections to South Africa, which is like 16,000 kilometers or something. Like it was a tough ride. Also, big shout out to Tappy, who took care of all the video tech down in Cape Town. It's appreciated. Yeah, hope to see you next time.